Hi, I'm Jamie Giroux. Thanks for watching our video presenting our study Exploring to Learn, Curiosity, Breadth and Depth of Exploration, and Recall in Young Children. This work was done at the University of Virginia with my postdoc colleague, Natalie Evans. So when we think about curiosity, there are many different ways that it's been defined in past research and some discussion about whether or not we should define it at all or to what level of specificity. But we do believe it's important to have some way of thinking about what it is that we are conceptualizing as curiosity in the current work. Typically, we think about curiosity as children seeking of information in response to a specific knowledge gap. So when there's something that children recognize they don't know and they want to find out that specific piece of information, and they're motivated specifically for intrinsic reasons of wanting to find that out, not related to some goal or some external task that they've been given, this is what we would consider to be curiosity. However, when we think about curiosity, it can be considered to be both a state, an in the moment experience, as well as a more stable individual characteristic. So when we think about differentiating between state and trait curiosity, we think of the state of curiosity as becoming motivated to seek out specific information to resolve a knowledge gap in the moment. Whereas a more stable disposition of being curious is kind of the more general propensity of one to become curious across situations, across contexts, based on one's approach to uncertainty, and specifically thinking about one's level of comfort with and desire to resolve uncertainty. So, for example, if someone is more likely to seek out information when there's more to be learned or a greater amount of uncertainty, we would consider them to have a higher stable curiosity level. We're interested in curiosity because it has been shown to be associated with learning across a few different studies, both with children and adults. So one of the ways that it might help to promote learning is by developing sustained interests. So instead of wanting to know something specific because of that kind of curiosity response, you might realize that you're just more interested in a topic in general, and in turn have more self-regulation, information seeking, and motivation to learn more about that specific topic. Curiosity also relates specifically to academic performance. And this has been true even when controlling for students' effort and ability, and is also seen to sustain over time and across years. However, a lot of this research is conducted with adults, or the research conducted with children tends to use more indirect measures, such as parents' or teachers' ratings of children's curiosity, rather than direct assessments. In our own work, we found that the teacher rating specifically can be confounded in terms of being highly associated with teachers' perceptions of children's cognitive and academic abilities, which makes it a challenge to think about what these associations might mean. When thinking about how curiosity might help to support learning, we really like to think about this in terms of the PACE model by Gruber and colleagues. And this is thinking about how children go through this process of detecting an information gap or predicting what they expect to happen. And then when there's some kind of error or incongruency between what is expected and what is observed, children appraise that information gap or prediction error, and they either become kind of anxious and just want to avoid the situation because it doesn't make sense, or they might become curious and engage in exploration and information seeking. And Gruber and colleagues suggest that when children are seeking information in this state of being curious, that this heightened cognitive level of thinking about it leads to enhanced coding. And so this is where curiosity is seen to predict learning in the moment in experimental studies. And they also found that curiosity predicts incidental learning. So when one is in that state of being curious, they recall more information they're exposed to, even outside of the information they're actually curious to know about. However, this was only seen with adults and didn't replicate with children. Gruber's work also suggests that there might be different aspects of this process that matter more for children across ages. So specifically, younger children seem to be most impacted by the expectations of what they might learn and wanted to learn, as opposed to the value they attributed to the information gained after the fact. So in our work, we wanted to extend Gruber's past work by introducing a few differences. So one difference is the task that we used and the measures that we used to look at children's curiosity. So instead of having children self-rate how curious they were or manipulating how curious we thought they would be about different items, we simply asked them what they were curious to know about. And we had children engage in a task that was open-ended information seeking to look at what they chose to explore and learn about. We had a younger age group that was somewhat wider, 6 to 10-year-olds, and we did look at kind of slightly different conceptualizations of learning and curiosity. We think that this is an interesting way to do this work because we provided what we think of as a more authentic context for children. So it feels less experimental and lab-based because children have these typical experiences of getting information from the different kinds of activities they're engaging in, such as computer games, which is what we used, and also looking at children's actual behavior in their active information seeking and the curiosities that they have, rather than having them use a rating scale that we weren't sure would necessarily work in the same way for younger children. So our primary research questions we explored in this paper are looking at whether there's an association between children's curiosity and their information-seeking behavior, whether curiosity related to children's recall of information explored, as Gruber and colleagues have found in the past. And we are also curious to explore what patterns we observed in children's information seeking. So whether they explored in a way that we would think of more about breadth of information, so switching from topic to topic, or more in depth, going within a single topic before switching to another. And we are really interested in looking exploratorily at patterns and how they might differ across age. So the participants in the current study included 88 children who were about 7 years of age, but again, ranged from 6 to 10. We had slightly more females than males, and they were mostly white, but we did have a few other racial and ethnic groups represented. And this did take place during COVID when participation was on Zoom, but we were able to give children screen control so they could click through the task on their own from their own computer. The information task looked like this for the cover screen, and children heard an introduction telling them that this was a game in which they could explore to learn about all different kinds of topics, and that they could explore and click to learn new things and do it for as long as they would like. They had unlimited time to explore these 9 shapes presented in the same array every time. Each shape was associated with a different topic, and children did not know these topics ahead of time. They would have to click to find out what topic went with each shape, but they were told that if they clicked the same shape, they could learn more about the same topic, and if they clicked a different shape, they would hear about a different topic. If they wanted to stop, they could click a button at the bottom of the screen to end game, and just to be careful about any unintentional clicks, they would get a prompt saying, "Are you sure you want to stop?" And they could click yes to end the game. Many children continued until every shape had been explored, the maximum amount of times that it could be clicked. And so the task could be ended in that way. After children finished their exploration, either by exploring all 27 potential items or clicking that they wanted to end the game, they were then asked to recall what information they remembered. And first there was just a question mark on the screen, and they were asked what they remembered. And then there was a memory cue of 4 of the 9 pictures related to the topics. And they were told, here's some pictures that related to some of the things you might have heard about. Is there anything else you can remember learning during the game? And then finally, after the recall items, children were asked what else they would like to know, either about the game or just more in general, and that was what we used to assess their curiosity. So the variables included the total number of facts explored. In addition, we did code whether they clicked on the same shape multiple times or whether they switched from one shape to another to look at that breadth and depth factor. For curiosity, we looked at the total number of items that they said that they wanted to know at the end of the task. And then for recall, we looked at the total number of items that they remembered hearing during the task. So this is just a summary. Again, there were 27 things to learn total because each of the 9 shapes had 3 facts that they could hear before the shape would disappear, meaning that they had exhausted that shape. So our first research question was just wanting to know, are these things associated, and what did children do? So what did children explore, recall, and want to know? For information seeking, we saw that on average, children clicked about 20 of the explorations that were possible. And more than half of the children, 56%, did actually click through all 27 items, so were considered to be at ceiling. For recall, we found that children remembered about 5 items of information that they had heard. And when we looked before and after the cueing, we saw about 3 items remembered before the cues and then 2 additional after the cues. And then for curiosity, we saw that children only gave about 1.6 things that they were curious to know about on average, but we saw this kind of even split across 4 levels. About a quarter of the kids gave no responses, a quarter gave 1, 26% gave 2, and 23% gave 3 or more things that they were curious to know about. So the associations we observed, we did not see a significant association between the curiosities that children had and their exploration, but we did see that recall, not surprisingly, was related to exploration. So the more things that children explored, the more things they were able to remember. Of course, what we were interested in was whether this recall was related to their curiosity. And we did see an association that was significant between the number of things children said they were curious about and their recalled information. And this remained significant when we controlled for the total number of things that children explored, as well as when we controlled for their age. So just to kind of show you what this looked like, I presented those 4 levels of no curiosities, 1 curiosity, 2 or 3 or more, and the number of things, the items that children recalled, and you can see this kind of linear positive association here. And this is controlling for age and the total amount of information they explored. So then our final question was related to whether children would explore in breadth or depth patterns of information seeking. And so we looked at depth of exploration as when children explored the same shape on multiple subsequent clicks, and breadth was when they clicked from one shape to another. And so we coded across all of their explorations how often they had each of these 2 types of clicks. And we saw that 44% of children always chose a different subsequent shape, so never clicked on the same shape more than once in a row. Overall, children clicked the same shape more than once in a row 4.6 times. And remember, the average number of clicks was about 20. So you can see this was on the much lower end of the scale. And so we did see breadth exploration is just much more frequent in this sample of children than depth of exploration. Only 29% clicked any of the shapes 3 times in a row. On average, children did this about 1.2 times. We did have about 5 children who did this for all 9 shapes. So about 5 super depth explorers. And when we looked at whether the amount of depth exploration related to age, we saw a significant but small association there. So there are a lot of considerations and limitations to the current study that we're trying to expand on and address in future research. So one is just thinking a lot about our conceptualization and other ways we might think about curiosity, and also thinking about what is the difference in information seeking and exploration and the things that children are curious to know about. Which one of these are kind of the truer indication of children's curiosity, and are they related in terms of children being motivated to explore because of curiosity, especially on this task, and is what we're looking at really similar to naturalistic curiosity as we intended? We were limited in that there wasn't a lot of variability in the number of curiosities children gave, and also in the information seeking with that large number of children who reached ceiling. And we also didn't align completely within this task with our conceptualization of children's curiosity as addressing specific knowledge gaps and uncertainty. So we're addressing that and looking at other tasks to build in that aspect of uncertainty. We're also modifying this task and seeing much more variability by adding more things that children can learn from the same shapes, as well as not having the shapes disappear or count down, because we observed anecdotally that that might be influencing children's desire to kind of finish or complete the task. And also thinking about potential confounds that we might want to address and control for in future work. So finally, to wrap up our main takeaways, we did see results that support prior research in terms of showing an association between curiosity and recall in this sample of children younger than past research, and for information that was learned through self-directed, open-ended information seeking on the exploration task. So we believe this demonstrates the robustness of this association. And we also think that our findings provide a foundation for future work to look at developmental changes in children's information seeking pattern, looking at breadth and depth. To conclude, I want to thank the funders of this work and thank you all for your attention and for coming to our session. And we look forward to having some discussion in the live session. Thank you so much.